Hello and welcome. My name is Raymond Dijoma, and I'm a real estate entrepreneur as well as property lawyer here in Nigeria. This particular video I intend doing today is one that is born out of a lot of requests. So I just decided to put it together. As a company that is into real estate, we get beginner questions every now and then, and we just thought to put content together and just do a video about that. So in this particular video, we're looking at real estate investment for beginners. Note the word beginners, right? So if you have ever planned to buy your first land, or you're ready to buy your first land, or you plan to buy your first land anytime soon, this video is for you. Right before you buy your first land, you definitely need to watch this video to the very end, because I'm literally going to be walking you through everything you need to know and everything you need to do before you make your first purchase. And particularly if you're somebody who wants to build wealth through real estate investment, and you are at that beginner stage, you are still at that point where you're making inquiries, you're still trying to put information together as to when to start, how to get started, and all of that, this video is also for you, right? So you need to watch it to the very end so that you get all of the information I intend sharing in this particular video. I also need to add that this conversation is one that can be had in hours, right? So as much as I intend giving quality content and a lot of information, I will also not be able to go into so much details, right? So I'm just basically going to make this as succinct as possible, right? So, and that is why there's room for you to reach out to the numbers that will be showing somewhere on your screen whenever you find the need to do that. All right, so in case anything is missing, do know that we are open to have further conversations as it relates to what we are going to share with you. But be rest assured that if you watch this video to the very end, you'll be glad that you did, and it will help in your investment journey as a beginner, right? So this video is brought to you by Fortreal Rei Ltd, a real estate company right here in the city of Abuja, and we are committed to bringing you the best of real estate. So we share the investment opportunities with you, both in lands and in houses. And we also ensure that we bring you the best content as it relates to educating you, because we understand that with education, you are properly informed, with information, you are empowered, and with proper empowerment, you can rule your world in the real estate sector. And that is why we are bringing this particular content to you. And that's why it's also important for you to subscribe, because if you subscribe, you'll be notified whenever we post amazing content like this very one. So again, this is brought to you by Fortreal Rei Ltd, and stay in touch if you need any of our services. And numbers are right on your screen. And so let's get started into the conversation. So yeah, real estate investment for beginners. Let's start by understanding what real estate is. And I'm going to give a basic definition of that. Now, real estate is basically land or anything on it. Land or anything on it. So, I mean, we are all somehow connected to land. We live either in land or we somehow occupy land, right? So, out of the 7 billion people in the world, every single one of that number need land for one thing or the other. In economics, in business, in whatever you do as a human being, there is some connection to land being a need, right? So those who invest in land are actually indeed wealthy. In fact, when you speak about investment at some tangible and sustainable level, real estate is number one on that list. So someone who is looking to start your real estate investment journey, I'd like to say congratulations, because you are really making a very important decision. And when you do it the right way, you are definitely going to be among the wealthy, because one thing real estate guarantees you is sustainable wealth. If you do it the right way and you do it consistently, it is only a question of time before you attain that level where you can proudly say you are now financially independent or sustainably wealthy. And that is the reason we are very deliberate about the type of product that we put out in the market, because all of them, as a matter of fact, to us, every product, every investment that you make should bring you closer to attaining sustainable wealth. And that's why we don't just put out any content online, or any product online rather. right? So, and of course, that's also why we are called the cash flow company, because for us, it's not just about owning land, it is about building wealth, right? So, in summary of what I'm trying to say here is that real estate is a sure pathway to building sustainable wealth, right? And real estate is land or anything on it. So, if you have a house on it, altogether is still real estate. So, having established that, the next question is, how do you make money from real estate? And this is a very important question, of course, and I'm sure you agree with me, right? Now, there are a number of ways that you can make money from real estate. The first, of course, is just buying the bare land, right, without anything on it. And with the land, what you are going to enjoy, which comes natural with every real estate investment, is appreciation. Now, a lot of persons, and at a more technical level, that is referred to as land banking, right? Where you just buy the land, you literally not do anything on it, and sell it after a few years, or depending on how long you want to keep it. So instead of taking your money and keeping it in the bank, where of course the figure in numbers may be increasing as you put money there, but in terms of value, the value is dropping. Instead of doing that, you can just put the money in land, buy a land somewhere, and leave it. And after a while, it will definitely appreciate. And what makes it appreciate is not based on your effort, really. In fact, most times it's not based on your effort. The fact that your neighbor is building also impacts the appreciation of your land. So generally, everywhere in the world, this is a universal policy. This is a universal reality. When you buy land, it will definitely appreciate. So that's one way to make money from real estate without doing anything. And that's why somebody says that landlords make money in their sleep. So you can either be the landlord on the bare land, or you be the landlord with tenants. But either way, you will definitely make money in your sleep. My first land, after I bought it, about 7 months later, I sold it. Of course, the only thing I did on the land was to survey it. Right after 7 months, I got over 100% appreciation on it, and I sold it. And I mean, that money was a major problem solver for me at the time. And that's basically one of the realities or benefits of buying into real estate. What I'm trying to say basically here is that real estate investment generally can help you, and specifically when you do land banking or just buy the land and keep it, it will appreciate over a period of time, and you will definitely be glad that you made that decision. So the other ways you can make money from real estate is by flipping, buying a house, just flipping it. So for example, you can buy a house at carcass level, what most people refer to as uncompleted building, and finish it up and sell it. You can make money from there. But basically, the lowest entry point, in my opinion, to real estate investment as it relates to your investment is land banking, where you buy land in small sizes, particularly possibly in the outskirts of the city, right? At that point, you can buy it at lower prices, and that's really the lowest entry point, really, because if you're looking at buying a house, that requires a lot of money, and I wouldn't advise you to jump at buying house and flipping at a beginner stage. Of course, if you have proper professional guidance with your money and the right professionals in your corner, you will definitely do well, right? But if you're just a beginner, you understand what I mean, then it's safe for you to consider starting at that land banking level. Also, you can also consider buying and renting, right? So you can buy the land, build it, and rent, or you buy a house and rent it out. That's also another way to make money from real estate. And then lastly, you can also consider estate development. You buy an estate, develop it, and sell, right? Of course, with the right professionals as well, right business partners and collaborators in your corner, you will also do well with that. But of course, you need capital to do that. Again, the lowest entry point is still land banking, which you can just start with as low as say ₦1 million in some cities. And I'm going to guide you further as it relates to pricing and all of that, right? So just stay in touch, and you will definitely get the best from this video. Now, as a beginner, you must always consider certain factors before you drop your money, before you pay a dime. Of course, I would expect that you have started making certain research and you realize that real estate investment is capital intensive, depending on how deep your pocket is, right? So it's not easy for some persons to bring out $1 million, $5 million, $10 million, $20 million to invest in real estate. For some persons, that's a lot of money, right? So you need to be careful and you need to consider a lot of things before you begin to make that decision. So the very first factor you need to consider before you drop that money, pay that money for that real estate investment or make that investment, is to look at the purpose why you are making that investment. Why are you making that investment? Why do you want to start that journey? It is very important. I've said it over and over and over and over, but some persons don't get it. Some persons think it's being overemphasized. Really, it is not. In the course of us doing this business, we've seen a lot of things go south. And when you look at it critically, you realize that from the very beginning, a mistake was made. And the mistake is usually not understanding why you want to do this. Why do you want to buy the land? Why do you want to start your real estate investment journey? It is very important that you understand that. With the clarity of purpose in that regard, it helps to streamline a lot of things and make a lot of things easier, both for you and the people who are helping you make that investment. As a matter of fact, this is one of the reasons why some persons have issues with their relatives, especially when they are not in the country and they give their relatives money to buy land for them. And without defining certain things, their relative back in the country will basically just buy land somewhere in the bush and begin to build a house. For us, when we clarify certain things and you say, I want to buy a house to build, start building, and possibly living immediately within the next 1 year or 2 years, then there are certain places that will clearly tell you not to buy a land. Right at that point, you're looking at something that you have to buy and build that we refer to generally as buy and build. Right, it's not somewhere you were going to buy for investment. Right, there are lands for investment, there are lands for immediate use, there are lands of different types. Right, of course, that now speaks or takes us back to the concept of why are you making that decision. Right, so that at the end of the day, you won't finish building and you realize that you have to wait for 5 years before people start coming to that area, or you end up staying in the middle of nowhere. So it's important that you clarify this from the very day one of starting this journey. Why do you want to make that decision? As a matter of fact, when you are doing business for a place like Abuja or doing real estate investment for a place like Abuja where we are, you also really need to clarify why. Because there are certain lands for commercial purpose, there are some for mixed use, there are some for residential purpose, right? So you don't want to have a purpose of doing commercial activities, and at the end of the day, you end up buying a residential land. At that point, you're stuck with converting it, and where it is almost impossible for you to convert it, you have to fall back to selling it, and that becomes an issue, right? So from day one, you need to clarify, why do you want to buy this land? Why do you want to start this investment journey, right? And then even your specific idea in mind will also guide the realtor, the professional, or the broker guiding you to also give you the best products available, right? So that those are, I think I'm already spending so much time on this point, so I'll just skip it. But the point is, ensure that you have clarity of purpose before you begin your real estate investment journey. It is very, very important. Now, after you've answered that question, you now need to ask yourself, how much do I have available for this? How much do I have available at the moment? You don't want to start asking questions about Maitama or Sokoro or Guzape or certain highbrow areas in Abuja when what you have is only 3 million, 4 million, or 5 million naira. You don't want to be disturbing or wasting the time of a broker or an agent asking or looking for a land in Guzape or Sokoro or some other highbrow areas in any city you're looking to invest in, when what you can afford is somewhere in the outskirts of the city. So it's very important that you also understand and communicate your budget. So some of you, I don't get it. When you ask clients what their budget is, some think that it is so that I don't get it. Someone has tried to explain it to me, but it still doesn't make any sense to me, right? Because you ordinarily should know the value of a property as it were, really, right? So I don't think there's any harm in any broker or agent asking you your budget, because when he or she knows your budget, for example, we have a brochure that we update every month. On most occasions, we try not to send the brochure because sometimes it ends up making the decision process even more difficult. So we just try to have a conversation with you, understand your budget, and immediately we, the professionals on this side, know what will fit what you want. So we have, say, 13 properties on our list, or lands and houses on our list or our brochure. We can't just forward all of them to you, right? So when you communicate the budget that you have and the purpose, from there we can properly say this fits in, this fits in, this will work, this wouldn't work. Right? So that's the basic idea of asking what the purpose is. Because if, for example, a lot of persons do reach out and say, I want to buy land in so and so place, I want to buy a house in so and so place. When they tell you, when you ask for their budget, then you base at that point, for a realtor that knows his business, it is easy for the realtor to tell you that this will work or this wouldn't work. So if it wouldn't work, then there's no point trying. It's rather to begin to look at other options instead of wasting either your time or the time of the realtor or the broker, right? So it's important to also clarify your budget, because your budget will definitely help to make the process easier and not otherwise. So having established what your budget is, the next question that ordinarily comes to mind is the location where your budget can afford. Now, number two and number three really go together, because your budget will determine the location that you can get, that you can actually be able to invest in, right? So the next question will now be, what location can my budget get me? Right now, the idea of location in real estate is really, really critical, because it changes a lot of things. For example, when the Aso Villa a few weeks ago to look at the land, and basically I'll call that land because the person who may want to get it subsequently or buy that place may not want to make do with the structure needs. So you literally can put away the structure and it's just the land that you're buying, right? And that's the residential quarters of the Aso Villa. Now, just for that land, which is somewhere around 1,000 square meters, it is going for 600 million naira. The reason it is going for 600 million naira is because, of course, there is that idea that is the residential quarters of the Aso Villa, just a few steps away to where the president is. While for that same land, 1,000 square meters, you can buy somewhere else for as low as 1 million naira. So location completely makes the difference. So it is not just about the size of the land, but the location of the land. The same Abuja, there are places where you can buy an estate for that same 600 million. You can buy 5 hectares of land. You can buy 10 hectares of land for that same 600 million. While in somewhere else, you can get 1,000 square meters for same 600 million naira. So altogether, it tells you that location is critical. So you have to be humble enough. I tell clients every time I have the opportunity, there are three very important factors you need to get, especially as a beginner when you want to start doing real estate investment. You need to be humble, to be able to focus on what you can afford. Number two, you need foresight to understand that every city was once a bush, and every bush has in it the potential to become a city. And lastly, as a beginner, you definitely need education, because when you are properly educated, you know that this is this and that is that, and this is what I shouldn't do, right? So those three things are important: foresight, humility, and education. And when you have these three together, it will help you to do the real estate business properly as a beginner. So basically, location makes a difference, right? And then the next thing you need to look at is the title on the land. What is the title on the land? Title on the land basically speaks of the legality behind that land that you are buying or that house that you are buying. I am a lawyer, as I said earlier, and this is somewhere that I major in as a niche, right? So you need to understand that every land should ordinarily have a title. You don't buy land as though you are buying an iPhone. You don't buy a house as though you are buying a pen. It's important that documentation is paid attention to from the very beginning. So the question of what is the title on the land is critical, because that is what will determine the sustainability, the security, or subsequent profitability of that particular land that you are buying. So don't just buy the land and boom and move on. Don't just transfer the money. As I've always thought, that there are two ends to every real estate transaction. There is the transactional end and there is the conveyancing end. Transactional end is basically where you just buy, transfer the money, and basically that's it. Conveyancing end is where the law, the property law concept, the part where the legal practitioner, lawyer has to come into play to be able to get the job done and to finish it really before you can execute documents, and then you can confidently say that this property is mine and you can sell it. You can have two lands on the same location. One is a 1,000 feet to the left, and the other is another 1,000 feet to your right. Both lands can have the same physical environmental amenities. However, both lands can have different titles that can make one of them go for 1 million and the other one go for 5 million. So title is another very important factor, and of course I cannot begin to exhaust all of the details in this particular video, because I mean it's a very extensive conversation, and different types of title, different kinds of title document. I mean, they're just different issues on the basis of title that we cannot exhaust in this particular video, right? So you may want to really get in touch with a property lawyer to guide you while you carry out your real estate investment as a beginner. Even though as an expert, you always need a property advisor. I'm about to skip to number 4, but some persons may have expected me to actually talk about price when I was talking about factors to consider. In my professional opinion, price actually comes last on the list of everything, because what you are looking at will determine the price of what you are getting. You should never focus on price first when you are buying real estate, because the value, the circumstances, the elements that make up that investment you are about to make will determine the price. And when you look at those elements properly, you will know that this price is either good or it is bad. So the concept of price, when we're looking at the factors to consider, really is not one that I pay serious attention to, because when I look at the elements in question, I can fairly determine if this price is one that you definitely need to jump at or not. So really, price is not a factor to consider. You basically just have to pay attention to what you want, and then that will determine how much you can get it. So the fourth point we need to now jump at quickly is how to get started. How to get started. So how do you begin the journey? Having looked at some of these factors, how do you now make immediate step, or how do you now take a step to begin to get this job done? Now, the first thing I would professionally suggest as an opinion is for you to actually get involved with a professional. I mean, get in touch with a professional. Get in touch with a broker, get in touch with a realtor, get in touch with an agent, no matter what they call themselves, really. So just get in touch with anybody that is a professional, that knows his work and knows the business, knows what he or she is doing, that can guide you or help you through the process. And one thing I need to say, for most professional realtors, you necessarily may not be incurring extra cost by getting in touch with a professional, because they most of the times get their commission from the people or the company they are selling for. Of course, like I said, there's an exception to that, so you may want to ask all of those questions as well, right? But for most of those occasions, you don't pay extra, except of course when you want to bring in your lawyer, do your investigation and all of that, right? But for the realtor, the broker himself, most of the times you don't incur extra cost by involving or using or engaging their services. So you may want to consider in getting in touch with a professional, because it actually saves you a lot of stress, and then I mean just saves you a lot of stress, really. The second point I would have to share with you here is involve your relative, particularly if you're not available in the country, as it were. Get in touch with your relative and let the person just be aware of what's happening. And of course, if you don't trust your relatives enough, I know clients who basically just tell us not to involve their relatives, or they don't want their relatives involved in the transaction. I've had some that tell you their relatives just should know the place, but they won't know if they bought it or not, right? So assuming anything comes up in a few years, they can say, okay, that land that you went to that time, I actually bought it, go and check it for me or something, right? But generally they just tell you to carry their relative along, but don't give them any further information, right? Some other times they tell you to, there are a number of documents that are with us that clients bought who are not in the country, and we're still in possession of those documents whenever they come around, right? So you can just basically explore the options you want to explore that fit you. You know yourself, you know your people. So, but we just generally do advise that you involve a relative or someone you trust. A relative or someone you trust. We've had dealings with Nigerians abroad who basically just use old school friends, university class classmates, and different people who are not related to them by blood, and usually the transactions are still very smooth, right? So you just basically have someone you trust get into the transaction, just to be aware of what's happening, so that it creates a check and balance to check the professional or the realtor, and then it just helps to create a check. That's why we suggest that. All right. But if you don't have anybody, if you trust the professional or the company enough, then feel free to go ahead and be rest assured that you will start, or you would have started well in the real estate sector as it relates to your investment. Number five is carry out due diligence. What's due diligence? Due diligence is basically ensuring that your money will not end up being, or the transaction is not a scam. Due diligence is basically ensuring that everything checks. That's a summary of what due diligence is, right? So you may want to involve a property lawyer to do certain checks for you. But if you trust the company enough, of course, I do personally say that you don't do real estate transactions solely on the basis of trust and some other things, but there are certain circumstances that exceptions are created, right? I wouldn't have to bring in personal experiences or personal testimonies, as it were, but basically, there are certain times that brands have proven themselves. You can 100% trust that whatever product they put out in the market is 100% legit. It's 100% okay to buy, right? And of course, when you have done that, then get your documents. That's really important. As much as we are saying that it's important for you to involve your lawyer to carry out due diligence as the next step, there are some other times, like I said, where the occasion demands that, trust is clear. This is a proven brand. This is a tested and trusted brand. So if you feel comfortable doing real estate transactions with them, then of course that will be good, right? So, but then this is not professional advice. You just look at your situation and get and do what will work for you and what you feel will be comfortable for you moving forward. So this is 50-50. Either you get your lawyer if you don't feel comfortable with doing business with the company, or you deal with them on the basis of trust if they have proven themselves and are tested and trusted. All right, so that's that for number five. And number six is follow up on the payment. How much are you paying? How much are you paying as initial deposit? And then your lawyer or your professional will also guide you on the type of documents that you're getting, as a contract or seal, depending on how you intend doing the transaction. So I basically cannot share all of the information I can share with you at this level because every transaction is different, right? So the document that we use in a particular transaction is also dependent on the type of transaction involved. So I cannot give you a straight line a conversation based on this particular point. But of course, your professional realtor or your property lawyer will guide you along this path. I feel like I should add a very important caveat here. First, make sure that your lawyer is one that is a property lawyer. There are different types of lawyers. And personally, I am particular about property transactions, right? And I cannot boast of being good on all areas of law. I am learned, but I'm not learned in all human endeavor. I'm not the Holy Spirit. I don't know all things. So I boldly tell my clients who I am, the property guy, as it were. When it comes to certain areas of law, I can bring in another colleague and possibly just supervise at the basic level. But of course, I won't have to do all of. I will be lying to you if I have to bill you for every area of law. That will be high. That will be a high level of insincerity and, in my opinion, unprofessionalism. So that's my personal opinion and that's my take. So make sure the person is a property lawyer who is guiding you on that journey. And secondly, try to ensure that your lawyer doesn't have a conflict of interest. There are some lawyers, particularly in certain cities, it's very common here in Abuja. You ask a lawyer to come in for due diligence, and the lawyer basically looks for everything that is wrong with that party, even when things are not wrong. They basically just key that transaction by through whatever means, and then they bring in their own deal to you. In my opinion, that's conflict of interest. That happened to me a couple of times. It didn't make any sense. It is conflict of interest, and it's very, very unprofessional, right? So you may want to also look at that factor, right? And then lastly, get your documents and take possession. Number seven, get your documents. Haven't sorted out all you need to sort out. Of course, ensure that every point you'd either immediately or thereafter, or so soon thereafter, get your documents. Documents are important in every land transaction. Again, documents are important in every land or real estate transaction. So get your document and take possession. What does taking possession mean? Taking possession is simply or basically a certain physical ownership of that property, showing that this property belongs to me physically. For some, and that can mean a lot of things. You can either get somebody to be farming on it, you can survey it, You can fence it. If you can't fence the entire land, do what most people refer to as angle fencing, or angle fencing. Just basically show physically that you own this land. That is taking possession. And if you can't, take consistent and continuous possession of that particular land or property, and that will help you to fight away or push away trespassers or people who just are looking for trouble, right? And it also helps you in court generally, assuming it gets to that point where any issue arises, right? So I think that's all I have to share with you. Not all I have to share, but all my time permits you to really share in this particular video. It's already very too long, and I think I should end it here. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, my name is Raymond Dijoma, and I'm a real estate entrepreneur, as well as a property lawyer here in Nigeria. This video is brought to you by Fortreal Rei Ltd, a real estate company right here in the city of Abuja, and we bring you the very best of real estate investment. We don't just share the opportunities with you, we also educate you so that you know how to safely and rightly invest in a city like Abuja and Nigeria generally. So when you are educated, you can put us in check and we'll do our work well, and everybody will smile in the end. So ladies and gentlemen, do subscribe and stay in touch. Reach out to the number showing somewhere on your screen if you're looking at reaching out to us for any of our services or whatever products that you're interested in, whatever products that we have available at the moment. Of course, you want to ask further questions, the numbers to reach out to us on your screen, and you can also drop a comment, like the video, share with a friend, and don't forget to turn on the notification so that you'll be notified whenever we post amazing content like this very one or the next one to come, and the next one to come after that. So ladies and gentlemen, bye for now.